Okay, I just got done watching the video in Fort Wayne, Indiana at the Pike's Pub with the Outlaws and the black guy that disputed his tab and he tried to walk out. It shows him attempting to walk out in the video and they are confronting him. And I'm just going to be blunt and blatantly honest. It is instantly called a race crime. It is never called a race crime when a bunch of black women jump Mexican girl, a white girl, an Asian girl, and beat her and steal her taco stand money, steal her purse, steal her shoes. Then it's called a gang thing because they're the outlaws. What about the Crips and the Bloods robbing people for their Nikes? I see so many people get up here and they just want to go viral and they want to just take up for the side on this app that everyone's agreeing with right now. What about those people? Is that a race crime when those black girls jumped Jenny at the taco stand? How many Hispanic people have been jumped at their stands and robbed? How many white people have been jumped in neighborhoods and had their purses, their bags, these bippers or Kia boys or whatever you call them, robbing people's vehicles? Is that a hate crime? Is that a race crime? Because instantly that's what it goes to. So what I want to ask you, is there any situation that a black person deserves? Because look at Carmelo Anthony. Oh, no one's ever wrong. No black person is ever accountable for anything. They've never done anything. They're never guilty. It was never their fault. That man, regardless if I agree with jumping people, and I don't, attempted to walk out. Go watch the video. I don't agree with jumping people. No, I don't. But I also am sick and tired of watching my people be jumped and murdered. And it never make the news, and it's never a race crime, and it's never a big deal. How does it feel? How does it feel?
So let me start off by saying I have not seen a video that she is talking about, but let me just say this. Anybody, you go into any establishment, you pay that tab. You know, if you go in and you enjoy the services of any establishment, you always make sure you pay the tab. That's just, you automatically in the wrong if you don't pay the tab. But from what I'm hearing about the video, it was 6 guys on one and they was just throwing out the N-word. I haven't seen a video, so I can't, judge too much on that. But what I will say is, once you start throwing out racial, if it's already 6 on one and you start throwing out racial, words, saying the N-word is a hatred, a word of hatred. When you put that ER on it, I know a lot of people like to say, you guys call each other. Never ignorant, getting goals accomplished was the mindset of the 90s and 90s hip-hop that was used to transmute that word and that energy into a positive. So no, we're not walking around calling each other the hard ER. Once you start calling somebody the hard ER and it's in a violent manner and you're trying to hurt that person, then obviously it's going to become racial. Now, I grew up, I grew up seeing a lot of, violence. I've never seen a bunch of so-called black individuals just jumping on an Asian. United States is big. I'm sure a lot of stuff happens in a lot of places, and we can obviously, I'm sure we can find a situation to always, add fuel to our biasness when we're trying to, I guess, represent a race, my people, or whatever she's trying to do. But sitting here saying, how does it feel? It just felt like biasness. I mean, when I looked it up, it said, from 1973 to now, it's been about 200 people that's been exonerated off of death row, 60% being so-called black individuals that was actually innocent. Telling how many other innocent people there are that are incarcerated. People are constantly getting retrials and found to be innocent. Majority of people, obviously, in the United States that are incarcerated are so-called black individuals. So to sit here and say that people don't get held accountable for their crimes is insane, especially when you look at the history of the United States and how many throughout, whether you want to go to, I could pull it up, but we can go to, let's just start from Jim Crow till now. How much innocent people have been murdered, have been incarcerated, and not just so-called blacks, but people of color. Period. You know, Italians had one of the largest mass hangings in New Orleans. So, I mean, what are we talking about here? You know, about people not being held accountable. Has she ever heard of the Central Park Five? Has she heard their stories and what they've been through? I would ask her, has she heard of Khalif Browder, rest his soul, and what he went through? I've personally been through a situation where when I was visiting the Bronx with my friends, I was only about 16, 17 years old, and, you know, what was called hop out boys, which is like undercovers, they hopped out checking us, you know, and they were saying all type of racial slurs and, you know, and even homosexual slurs, trying to just be funny, I guess. I don't know. It was weird, you know, very, very weird. Like, they found a condom in one of my friend's pockets, and they're like, "What are you gonna use? What's that for your buddy right there?" You know, like, they were just saying weird stuff, and, you know, and putting a certain mindset into to the youth. Now, me, I grew up to not let that build hatred within me, but that's not everybody. When you're dealing with people who are undeveloped, and you're dealing with people who are still developing, you know, that logical side of their brain, and they're growing up in environments where you have a lot of people who are practicing this type of racial hatred when no one's looking, then they're going to start to look at everything as an enemy. And when they have a poor mindset, then they're going to start moving so when you look at how they, as far as what she's talking about, Mexicans being robbed and all that. Yeah, I've heard of a few situations in California with the, what's it called, the elote, how you pronounce it? Excuse me, the elote lady, getting robbed. But I also seen between whatever happened with those communities, the so-called black and brown, I seen them definitely handle that. They all handled it, and I see a lot of peace treaties that was, you know, that go on over there. And also, there is a lot of racial, you know, things that go on there between both sides. There was a time in the the late 90s, early 2000s, where, you know, it was, you know, gangs had you know, straight execute blacks. You know, a whole that was what they were told from their higher ups: execute blacks. This is facts. So, you know, and a lot of people died because of that. A lot of situations happen. Has she heard of the Tuskegee experiments? Does she know what society she lived in? Because she's speaking from a very biased perspective, talking about how does it feel over one situation where someone, listen, I'll tell you right now, let's just take away whatever people are indoctrinated with, whatever your grandparents and your parents taught you. Let's take that away from it. Let's use your heart for a second, right? I've been sweating a lot lately because I'm still healing from a cold, guys. Still healing. But let's take away all this extra stuff. Let's just say someone walks into a bar causing problems. They don't pay the bill. I'm going to go watch the video after this, but you need 6 people for that person, and just because they're another race, you as an individual, you're going to sit there and you're going to hurl out, you're going to hurl out racial slurs at them? Like, come on, it just comes down to right or wrong. Like, what are we doing here? And this is why United States can't unite. Does she know how many people innocently were innocently convicted? Does she know how many people were serving small sentences, got murdered in prison? What about that? Does she speak on, like, come on? So, you know, that was so biased, and that was such a entitled, you know, mindset right there. Like, oh, how does it feel? How does it feel? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know? Now, there is a lot of hypocrisy within the so-called black community, of course. There's a lot that needs to be fixed, of course. And the rap music is a reflection of that ignorant mindset. And I don't stand for none of that. I don't stand for the ignorance. But people sit here and talk as if just urban, just that community, just let's say the urban community, they talk as if that represents black people, so-called black people as a whole. Like, there's not doctors and plumbers and all type of stuff out here. Like, and blue collar workers out here, you know, everywhere. But for some reason, the negative gets all the attention. And then when a situation happens, then all of a sudden it's, oh yeah, how does it feel? Oh yeah, you guys never get held accountable. Really? We never get held accountable? Okay, well, I guess she's right then. I'm out of here.